Chapter 473, Watching by the Side. Who are you? A hoarse voice sounded, and it was obvious that Ling Tian's arrival was spotted. But before the hoarse voice could say a second sentence, Ling Tian's figure drifted over like a shadow and brandished his short sword. The next moment, a line of blood could be seen on that figure's throat, and he took his last breath. However, the most unexpected thing was the fact that a look of release could be seen in that figure's eyes. Ling Tian's figure did not stop there. His eyes gleamed ruthlessly, and his short sword was brandished another 3 times, taking the lives of the other 3 casualties. Ling Tian then noticed that on the wounds of the 4 individuals, blood only trickled down slowly. The spot where Ling Tian slashed was the artery on their neck. Apart from being a fatal spot on the human body, it was also the place where the blood flow was the most. The bodies of these 4 individuals were obviously seriously injured and had an excessive loss of blood. Even before Ling Tian's arrival, these 4 individuals were no more than 4 half-dead corpses. All 4 of them were leading a life worse than death. Ling Tian couldn't help but think about the look of release in the first man's eyes and let out a heavy sigh. Once a person loses control of his choice to live or die, and when death could be considered an extravagant hope, while Ling Tian's actions could be considered cruel, they could also be considered a form of release for them. A faint bloody smell emanated in the darkness, and Ling Tian stood silently in the room and counted his breaths. Ling Tian had killed far too many people in both this and his previous life. It was impossible for him to be affected by the bloody smell in the room. At this moment, the Yu family members were already outside of the courtyard. In the room by the side, a soft rustling sound could be heard, followed by a doubtful question: why did 6th brother's groaning sound disappear? Then, he seemed to have been startled by the words he just said as he let out a gasp, "6th brother." Following which, the sound of someone hastily getting off his bed could be heard. The timing was just right. Ling Tian leaped out of the window and smashed the window into pieces. Following that, he scaled the wall of the courtyard at top speed, and with a flick of his wrist, 2 daggers shot out in the darkness. He then let out a loud roar, "Assassins!" before smashing another 2 doors. Before his voice disappeared into the darkness, Ling Tian had already landed back onto the ground, and his figure disappeared into thin air. Ah! Ah! 2 miserable shrieks sounded, and Ling Tian's dagger had landed right in the chest of 2 white jade experts of the Yu family. The 2 white jade experts who were still laying in concealment suddenly felt a sharp pain in their chest and couldn't help but let out a miserable shriek. This miserable shrieks of theirs exposed all of the other Yu family experts, and a low angry roar could be heard: "Attack! Kill! Kill anyone who resists!" With a few crashing sounds, the door of the room that Ling Tian was previously in was sent flying, and 2 figures entered the room. Following that, an aggrieved and furious roar could be heard: "6th brother! 8th brother! They killed 6th brother and the rest! How vicious! They aren't even willing to let go of the injured. This daddy here will fight all of you to the death." Crashing sounds could be heard from all the various rooms, and 7 figures appeared on the roof with their eyes burning with rage and deep hatred. The one who first let out the roar was the last one to appear. His voice was trembling as he said with grief and indignance, "Big brother, 6th brother and the rest. They." The big brother was a lean old man in his 50s and replied nervously, "Not a single one?" The middle-aged man who appeared the last hammered his chest as tears gushed out of his eyes and almost lost his cool from grief. "Their lives were taken with a single blade. Big brother, you must take revenge for our brothers." A thick killing intent exploded forth from the big brother's figure as he roared, "Kill all of these bastards! Take revenge for 6th brother and the rest!" At the same time, the experts of the Yu family also let out a loud battle cry, and the 50+ Yu family experts pounced forward from the dark. Before both parties came into contact, tons of arrows and hidden weapons covered the sky and rained down on the above heavens experts like a thunderstorm. On the roof, the 8 of them let out a loud roar and no longer held anything back. With the ball full of anger that they had been holding in, they charged forward, and one of them even did a somersault in midair and shot forward with a brilliant splendor of light. He had actually unleashed his man and sword as one killing technique at the start. The raining hidden weapons were immediately reflected back by his sword light with ding-ding-ding sounds. It was like heavenly lightning drawing forth earthly flames. The moment both parties came into contact with each other, they entered into a bitter battle with endless hatred in each of their hearts as their eyes turned red from killing. 8 top-notch experts of above heavens with 3 extreme experts among them were like tigers entering into a herd of sheep. The moment the battle started, the white jade experts of the Yu family felt that it was impossible for them to fight back, and the huge gap in their strengths could be immediately seen. In just a short instant, the Yu family experts suffered both injuries and fatalities. The head deacon, Yu Zhao Ran, let out a battle cry, and a powerful battle prowess exploded forth from his skinny figure. The sword in his hands transformed into 10,000 rays of silver light, and he actually managed to single-handedly block 3 above heavens expert. Furthermore, he remained on the offensive and actually had the upper hand. 2 bright fireworks exploded in the air. It was the rescue signal of the Yu family. After just a short while, countless black figures began swarming over from all directions. Meng Juchen raised his sword up and stabbed it into the chest of a Yu family expert. At the same time, his left palm struck out and knocked the white-robed man to his left back. However, his right shoulder was struck because of a short moment of distraction. His figure tumbled forward slightly and he quickly brandished his sword, and before the white jade expert who ambushed him could retreat, the white jade expert let out a miserable groan and was dismembered into 2 parts. A fountain of blood shot towards the air and sprayed all over Meng Juchen's body. The big brother's attack was even crueler. Every time he attacked, there would be at least a Yu family expert being dismembered. There was not a single person capable of blocking him for even an instant. Ah! A groan sounded, and an above heavens expert was stabbed in the waist after killing one of his opponents. Turning his body around immediately, the sword which was embedded into his waist snapped into 2 and he reached out and strangled his enemy in the neck. Squeezing his hands tightly, his opponent's neck was actually snapped into 2 and a mouthful of blood sprayed out from his body at the same time. A couple of white jade experts in the surrounding then charged forward together, and the above heavens expert gave up on all forms of resistance. He was drowned in his opponent's swords and sabers and only had the chance to let out 2 groans before turning into a pile of mush by his opponent's countless weapons. 9th brother. A black-robed expert let out a mournful wail and charged forward in a near-suicidal manner, ignoring the obstructing white jade experts surrounding him. But before he could arrive, his 9th brother had already died in battle, and an arrow shot towards him, accurately landing in his back. With a loud shout, he wobbly wanted to get up but was already decapitated by the surrounding swords and blades. A few swooshing sounds could then be heard, and 4 to 5 figures appeared from the darkness and shot towards the 6 remaining above heavens experts. From the large winds generated from their palm strikes and the stability of their attack, it was obvious that these incoming individuals were all top-notch experts. That big brother charged forward to welcome the incoming Yu family experts, and with a flurry of kicks, punches, and stabs, he actually blocked 4 of the Yu family experts and entered a bitter battle with them. Every time their weapons connected, sparks would be seen shooting out in all directions. Both parties let out a resounding battle cry, and the battlefield descended into greater chaos. In the dark, Ling Tian watched the scene in front of him with pleasure as he enjoyed this show that he had been planning for a long time already. Watching this show that played out exactly to his expectations, Ling Tian was filled with an unknown sense of achievement. The Zhou family, Yu family, and above heavens. Ha ha ha. Let's see what will all of your reactions be after today. If all of you can still remain composed and swallow this ball of fury, I will be truly speechless. Ling Tian giggled in his heart. Under the lead of the big brother, the 6 above heavens experts finally managed to gather back together after a series of bitter exchanges. They formed a small defensive circle as they launched crazed attacks at the Yu family experts. By forming a small defensive circle, they wouldn't have to guard their backs but also limited their own movement space. While it wouldn't matter much in the short run, as the battle dragged on further, they would definitely suffer misfortune. As even more of the Yu family reinforcements arrive, they had actually formed a thick wall around the small defensive circle of the above heavens experts. When their enemy and allies were so clearly differentiated, the 6 above heavens experts fought to the point their eyes were bloodshot from killing and did not have the intention to retreat. The horrible deaths of their brothers had stirred up their blood and they would rather fight to the death. On top of a wall far off, Yu Manlu was dressed in thin robes as he watched the miserable battle calmly with his hands behind his back as though he was watching a show. By his side, 2 black-robed shadows were standing silently without daring to make a single sound. Chapter 474, The Aureole Behind. They are actually from above heavens, Yu Manlu suddenly said with a chilly tone. The person in the lead is obviously one of the 5 great experts from back then, Meng Wu King. The one slightly weaker should probably be Meng Wu Yi, who never leaves Meng Wu King's side. 1,000-year-old sect is different indeed. Even if they have declined, the combat prowess of these few individuals can't be underestimated. Family head, if this battle continues, while we will be able to wipe out our enemies completely, we will have to pay an immense price to do so. Should this subordinate take action immediately to quickly end this battle? Quickly end this battle? Yu Manlu seemed to have heard a joke and a smile could be seen on his face. However, this smile of his was filled with coldness. Meng Wu King and the 2 by his side obviously have some strength left. If all of you take action right now, the 3 of them would definitely fight back at full force. It is best for us to exhaust them further first. Yu Manlu then paused for a moment before continuing. The thing I am puzzled about is why these above heavens experts would appear in the courtyard of my 3rd son. Who can give me an explanation? While the tone Yu Manlu used was extremely soft and light-hearted, the 2 individuals by the side immediately realized something and lowered their heads without saying a word. Yu Manlu sneered, "It seems that my children have truly given me a huge surprise." Unable to bear the tense atmosphere, a black-robed expert stammered, "Perhaps 3rd young noble didn't know their identities." Ha ha ha, letting them stay at his courtyard meant for hiding his love affairs without knowing their identities. Yu Manlu chuckled, "Big Hai, can you even convince yourself to believe that?" The 2 of them couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. While Yu Manlu had an amiable smile on his face right now, these 2 individuals who had followed Yu Manlu for a long time could naturally sense the uncontrollable anger in Yu Manlu's heart. Another 2 miserable groans could be heard from below and 2 Yu family experts died in the battlefield with their corpses trampled and mutilated in just a short moment. After being sent flying by one of the reinforcements of the Yu family, both of their corpses were at the very least intact. Such a huge disturbance tonight was truly out of this old man's expectations, Yu Manlu said with a chilly voice as though he couldn't be bothered about the deaths of his subordinates. "That 2nd son of mine is probably behind this matter, right? They are truly close brothers." The 2 black-robed men shivered as their backs turned cold, and a cold sweat had already drenched their clothes. Furthermore, the head deacon should be aware of this matter as well, right? Yu Manlu watched the skinny figure engaging in a bloody battle and said calmly, "Perhaps he may even be the mastermind of this incident." However, this old man who is their father was actually the last to find out. If not for that little brat Ling Tian playing his little tricks, this old man wouldn't be here to personally witness such an exciting show. If that's the case, I would even have to thank Ling Tian. These final words of his were said with a chilly tone as a dense killing intent shot out from his eyes. Both the black-robed men couldn't help but turn to face each other. After serving Yu Man Lu together for so many years, both of them had already achieved great chemistry and couldn't help but wonder why their family head talked about Ling Tian at such a moment. Could it be that their family head was angered by his son's degeneracy to the point his thoughts weren't clear? This Ling Tian was truly a capable individual. Regardless of the matter, as long as they decided to investigate it thoroughly, Ling Tian's figure would definitely appear in the matter. This was truly the mark of an extremely capable individual. Both the black-robed men couldn't help but muse to themselves. Yu Man Lu was suddenly startled as his own words reminded him about something. Ling Tian. Could this be a part of Ling Tian's schemes? The motive of this scheme was obvious: to drive both the Yu and Zhou families to opposing ends and form an irreconcilable enmity between our families so that he can fish for benefits from the side. If not, my second son certainly wouldn't be able to come up with such a detailed plan. All of a sudden, Yu Man Lu was shocked by his own thoughts. Could it be that of both my sons, one of them colluded with Above Heavens and the other one is colluding with Ling Tian? If someone were to say that there wasn't an inside story to this affair, Yu Man Lu would be the first to disagree with that. Everything definitely has a cause and effect. This incident couldn't have happened without any rhyme or reason. If not, how could it be that they coexisted in harmony for such a long time but broke out in conflict the moment Ling Tian arrived? However, if Ling Tian was truly the person behind this affair, he would definitely have another trick up his sleeves. Thinking about this, Yu Man Lu felt a heavy feeling in his heart before feeling elated. With the bulk of the Yu family's elites being present, as long as Ling Tian appeared now or something odd occurred, he would be able to deal Ling Tian a heavy blow or even get rid of this huge trouble by his side. Yu Man Lu narrowed his eyes as his gaze swept past the battlefield slowly and watched for any oddities in the surroundings. Ling Tian should probably be watching all of this by the side, right? Yu Man Lu's lips curled up in a trace of mockery. Want to watch a show involving my Yu family? If that's the case, you will probably have to come out and put on a show as well. Two robust figures dashed over from afar at a lightning-fast speed. The moment they landed on the ground, they immediately joined in the battle and the situation in the battle changed again. While every one of the remaining Above Heavens experts was a top-notch expert, the gathering experts of the Yu family weren't much weaker. In fact, they were stronger than the Above Heavens experts in almost all ways. Furthermore, the final few experts who joined in the fray were the pavilion heads of the Yu family. Their strength was no weaker than Meng Wu King and Meng Wu Yi, and the Above Heavens experts felt an immense increase in pressure. Even the most powerful Meng Wu King and Meng Wu Yi had no choice but to unleash their full strength to defend against the incoming attackers. As for the weaker experts of Above Heavens, they were in an even more miserable state. In just a short while later, another two Above Heavens experts died under the weapons of the Yu family and a hole was formed in the defensive circle of the Above Heavens experts. If Meng Wu King and Meng Wu Yi still did not go all out at this moment, they would no longer have the chance to do so. The both of them let out a loud roar and spread out to the left and right. Two brilliant rays of sword light shot out of the encirclement and blood sprayed out in all directions, raining down on all the experts present. The head deacon was originally at the front line of the battle, but after these two brilliant sword rays shot out, he made a swift retreat and felt a tint of chill at the top of his head before feeling a sharp pain. A layer of his scalp was actually shaved off. Retreat! Meng Wu King shouted and blocked all the Yu family experts together with Meng Wu Yi. An empty space was immediately formed in the encirclement and the remaining two experts of Above Heavens, Meng Ju Chen, and Meng Wu Hui, made use of that opportunity to jump up to the roof. The both of them knew that Meng Wu King and Meng Wu Yi would never retreat before them and they would only be a burden by staying behind. The experts of Above Heavens were truly united. Despite being in such a precarious situation, not a single one of them retreated out of cowardice. Meng Wu Hui was originally the same level expert as Meng Wu King. However, He suffered inner injuries from the battle with justice and had not recovered fully yet, thus becoming a burden in this battle. He already felt extremely guilty in his heart, and now that he had the chance, he quickly made a retreat lest he becomes a burden. He had already made a decision in his heart that if he couldn't make use of this opportunity to escape, then he would rather sacrifice his life to give his brothers a chance to escape. He would never remain beside them and become a burden. The figures watching by the side flew to the skies and blocked Meng Jucheng and Meng Wuhui together. Below, Meng Wu King and Meng Wu Yi let out a roar and shot their swords towards the sky to obstruct the two pavilion heads who wanted to block Meng Juchen and Meng Wuhui. The head deacon let out a sharp scream, and with both anger and humiliation, his sword shot towards Meng Wu Yi. On the ground, almost all of the Yu family experts who could react in time shot towards the air and gave chase. Big Hai, should I capture them, let them off, or kill them all? Yu Manlu watched the four escaping above heaven's experts heartlessly and asked. This subordinate does not know. Big Hai bowed down and broke out in a cold sweat. It was obvious that this matter involved Yu Manlu's two sons. How would he dare to express his opinion? Yu Manlu shut his eyes with fatigue and said with a tinge of weariness, "Let it be then. If they are lucky, let them off. If they aren't so lucky, kill them all. Even if they can be captured alive, don't give them a chance to say anything." Yes, the family head is wise. Big Hai acknowledged Yu Manlu's words and sighed in his heart. Yu Manlu naturally has his reasons for letting them go. While Big Hai did not know what the reason was, he was certain that Yu Manlu had his own reasons. As for killing them, it was naturally so that he wouldn't hear anything he didn't want to. Just why were these above heaven's experts in Third Young Noble's courtyard? What was their relationship with Third Young Noble? Why would Second Young Noble and the head deacon plan this operation? How much was hidden within this affair? The two of them did not dare to ask these questions and were not willing to find out the answers to them as well. They just did not dare to know the answer to those questions. While Yu Manlu was definitely able to deduce all of these matters, he did not want to think about them right now. He had just lost his most outstanding son, and even if his other two sons were degenerates, they were still his own flesh and blood. It was impossible for him to punish both of his sons at such a moment regardless of the mistakes they made. But if he were to catch the above heaven's experts alive, he wouldn't have a choice but to face all of these fairly. By letting them off, he would still be able to make use of them, but he could never catch them alive. These above heaven's experts had already killed so many of their Yu family's experts, and a few of their brothers had died in the hands of their Yu family experts as well. The enmity between them was already irreconcilable, but their family head still chose to let them escape if their luck was good. Just what did this mean? Could it be that their Yu family brothers died for nothing? Right at this moment, Meng Wuhui, who had landed on the roof, noticed the precarious situation of his brothers. A resolute gaze shot out from his eyes and he shot back towards the ground. He was immediately stabbed by the two pavilion heads of the Yu family, but it seemed as though he did not notice a thing, and he dashed past the sides of his brothers. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, the splendor of his sword light exploded forth and blocked all of the incoming Yu family experts charging towards him. He had actually single-handedly blocked a few experts who were not weaker than himself. He then shouted in a hoarse but resolute voice, "If you don't want me to sacrifice my life for nothing, leave now." After that, he was swallowed by the numerous weapons. Meng Wu King and Meng Wu Yi let out an indignant roar but did not hesitate in the slightest. Without even looking back, they shot up towards the roof, and after meeting up with Meng Juchen, they immediately fled for their lives. They knew that their brother had just used a forbidden technique which burned up his life essence to create an opportunity for the two of them to escape. No matter what, Meng Wuhui's death was certain, and there was nothing they could do to reverse the situation. In the surroundings, arrows shot over from the surroundings and the sounds of metal clashing rang out incessantly. Then, a low grunt could be heard, and Meng Wuyi suffered an arrow to his left shoulder, causing him to almost fall off from the roof. Meng Wuqing hurriedly brandished his sword to deflect all the incoming arrows and charged out with Meng Wuyi. Right at this moment, a swooshing sound could be heard and a few pavilion head-level experts rushed over. Meng Wuqing and Meng Wuyi looked at each other and saw the grief in each other's eyes. Their third brother had stayed behind to block these experts, and now that these experts were chasing after them safe and sound, it could only mean one thing: their third brother had already perished. While they knew that their third brother had used a forbidden technique and his death was certain, affirming the matter was a completely different matter. There was an obstruction in the front and enemies chasing after them from the back. Furthermore, arrows were raining down upon them like a thunderstorm, and they were currently in the territory of their enemy. Of the three of them left, there were already two of them who were injured, and there were no less than 7 to 8 top-notch experts eyeing on them by the side. All of a sudden, the three of them couldn't help but be overwhelmed by a wave of hopelessness. Meng Juchen let out a roar of hopelessness and was like a beast trapped in a pitfall. He then clenched his teeth, raised his sword, turned around and charged towards the Persing Yu family experts. Meng Wuqing let out a long sigh. Since there wasn't a hope for them to escape, why was there a need to abandon one more of their brothers? He knew that Meng Juchen turned around so that he could use his life to buy them a little bit of time to increase their chances of escape. However, Meng Wuqing did not want to escape any further. Almost all of his brothers had perished in Bright Jade City, and what was the point for him to escape alone? Furthermore, he would still have to face the punishment of his sect if he returned alive. If that's the case, he might as well accompany his brothers to the Yellow Springs Road. Both Meng Wuqing and Meng Wuyi had the same thoughts and turned around in unison with a resolution to die. Cutting off all paths of retreat and fighting with their backs against the river. Even if they are going to die, they must definitely squeeze out a few more drops of blood from the Yu family. The three of them charged back in an almost maniacal manner, obviously intending to fight to the death. This action of theirs shocked the Yu family experts, especially the vice pavilion head of the River Mountain Pavilion, who was still delighted after killing Meng Wuhui and giving chase at the very front. However, he never expected the three above heaven's experts to charge back at them instead of escaping for their lives. With this slight moment of distraction, the three of them were already in front of this vice pavilion head. At this moment this vice pavilion head was still in midair and with his robes fluttering in the winds, looking extremely carefree. Thus, he also died in an extremely carefree manner. "Be careful!" a couple of people cried out and quickly made their way over. However, what kind of a person was Meng Wuyi? How would he be willing to let go of this opportunity that he had spent so much effort to create? Furthermore, his own brother had died in the hands of this individual, and even if he had to exchange his life to take revenge, it would be worth it. Like three meteors, the three of them clashed together, and Meng Wuyi intentionally sped up in front of Meng Wuqing to welcome the vice pavilion head's sword. Turning his body slightly, his opponent's sword stabbed into his right shoulder and his own sword stabbed right into the abdomen of his opponent. His left fist was then clenched into a fist and he smashed it into the nose of his opponent. A malevolent glare could be seen in Meng Wuqing's gaze, and both he and Meng Juchen stabbed their swords towards their hated enemy. His sword shot towards his enemy's abdomen and Meng Juchen's sword shot towards his enemy's neck. Meng Juchen wanted to slice off the head of this enemy who killed his own brother. Because of this, he had also paid the price of 2 palm strikes, 1 kick, and 1 sword. But with a flick of his sword, a big head with a shocked expression flew towards the sky. Meng Juchen was already spitting out mouthfuls of blood, but a trace of delight could still be seen in his eyes as he burst out in laughter and with a kick sent the head flying to the horizon. If there were national soccer players present, they would definitely kowtow to take Meng Juchen as a coach. If they could master this kick, not to mention the quarter or semi-finals, even the championship would be firmly in their grasp. As for the ball which was kicked by Meng Juchen, That vice pavilion head naturally died a carefree death and was deader than dead. While they had killed the enemy that they wanted to kill, the three of them were once again surrounded. They had suffered heavy injuries, and their situation was even more precarious than before. At this moment, the three of them no longer had any thoughts of staying alive. Instead, they were full of battle intent and grew more and more valiant as they fought. As the members of the Yu family faced the valiant above heavens experts, while victory was already within their grasp, they were still filled with shock. Ling Tian hid in the shadows and shook his head with a bitter laugh. These three fellows are truly like idiots. To think that they don't even know how to escape. Even if you guys are willing to throw away your lives, if all of you were to die an unknown death in Bright Jade City, when would the Yuan Shou families be able to fall out with each other? It seems like this young noble has to take personal action. Forget it, the heavens will reward the kind and let me be a flawless citizen for once. Seeing the three individuals about to lose their lives, Yu Manlu, who was watching from afar, suddenly lit up with a powerful battle intent. The two black-robed individuals beside him couldn't help but be bewildered. With victory right in front of their eyes, why would their family head suddenly display such a battle intent? On the battlefield, the three of them were already in extreme danger with their lives hanging on a thread. Yu Manlu was indeed a soul brother of Ling Tian. As he watched closely from the side, he was certain that if Ling Tian was present, this was the best moment for Ling Tian to take action. As long as Ling Tian delayed for even the slightest bit, it would be too late for him to do anything. If Ling Tian did not take action now, it would mean that he wasn't present here and there wouldn't be any meaning for him to wait here with his Yu family experts. In actuality, how would Ling Tian not wish to take action? But just when he was about to take action, he felt an immense wave of danger in his heart. It was as though there was an extremely venomous snake eyeing him from the dark. That bone-chilling feeling sent a chill down his spine, and Ling Tian couldn't help but tremble. Could there be someone watching me in the dark? With such a disturbance in the city, where could Yu Manlu be at such a moment? There was definitely something fishy about this matter. The mantis stalks the cicada unaware of the aureole behind. Could it be that there was an eagle behind him, the aureole? Ling Tian was filled with a cold chill. However, the battlefield was growing more and more dangerous by the second, and if he didn't take action now, all of his arrangements would go to waste. With the strength of the Yu family in Bright Jade City, they were definitely capable of sealing up the news regarding the experts of above heavens. But if the news of the above heavens experts' deaths doesn't spread out, how would he be able to instigate a war between both the families? Ling Tian had still decided to take action. Even if he knew that Yu Manlu was waiting for him to take action, he had no other choice. How could he allow all of his efforts to go to waste? Ling Tian crouched down and moved slowly in the darkness. Seeing the many experts of the Yu family inching nearer and nearer to them, Meng Wu King let out a sneer. Is it finally the time to die? Let death come then. This old man will definitely pull a couple of them down with me. With a loud scream, the experts of the Yu family charged over. Meng Wu King and Meng Wu Yi looked at each other and gave a carefree smile. Just when they were about to face the Yu family experts, they suddenly saw a gold and silver light flash past their eyes and numerous hidden weapons exploded forth like a peacock spreading its tail. With a dreamy rainbow-colored light and a threatening killing intent, the hidden weapons sprayed towards the Yu family experts who were charging over. With victory right in front of their eyes and their opponent without the strength to fight back, the Yu family experts charged forward excitedly. However, they never imagined that they would be greeted by a bunch of hidden weapons instead. The silver and gold needles sliced through the air with a powerful penetrative power and shot through the Yu family experts, carrying with them trails of blood. Their extreme joy turned into sorrow. Miserable groans sounded, and there were many Yu family experts who threw away the swords in their hands as they held onto their bleeding eyes. Many of the Yu family experts rolled off the roof, and those who didn't roll off jumped up to pitifully avoid the incoming hidden weapons while cursing incessantly. A hole was immediately formed in the encirclement of the Yu family experts. This opportunity can't be missed. Even though they knew that there was an expert aiding them in the dark, this wasn't the time for them to exchange greetings. As long as they had the chance to stay alive, who would be willing to die? Meng Wuqing held on to both his brothers, and with his fastest possible speed, he dashed out from the opening and was 40 to 50 feet away. The archers of the Yu family members knocked their bows, and right when they were about to fire, a copper coin shot towards them with a wang, and more than 20 bows were sliced into half by the sharp copper coin. "Little brat, you dare!" Yu Manlu roared, and his hiding figure shot out from his hiding place. Before the crowd could even blink, Yu Manlu had already covered more than 100 feet and arrived at the bush beside the wall. At the same time, his palm struck down with the majesty of lightning descending from the heavens. It struck towards the bush and the shadow hiding within it. Chapter 475, Before Dawn. At the same time, the two black-robed experts who were standing behind Yu Manlu also made a move. They flew over the buildings without a sound, drew their swords, and their swords stabbed out like two venomous snakes. Every place their sword light flashed by, the vegetation would be slashed apart cleanly and sent flying into the sky. Above the roof, the Yu family experts looked at the escaping Meng Wuqing and then looked at their family head launching an attack as though he was facing a great enemy. They were then stuck in a dilemma about whether they should give chase to the escaping experts or join their family head's attack. With just that slight moment of doubt, Meng Wuqing and the rest disappeared into the darkness. With a loud bang, a huge crater was formed in the ground from Yu Manlu's palm strike. At the same time, the swords of the two black-robed experts also shot past the sky. To the surprise of everyone else, Yu Manlu's palm strikes and the two sword strikes of the black-robed experts had actually struck air. With a wave of slashing sounds, the diced-up vegetation floated down gently from the sky. Yu Manlu's eagle's eyes were locked onto the place where his palm struck out, and feeling the empty feeling of his palm strike, he let out a sneer. Although he didn't know what method his opponent used to avoid his attack, Yu Manlu was certain that there was definitely someone in that direction. Even if that person was able to alter the trajectory of his hidden weapons, how would that person be able to hide it from Yu Manlu's eagle-like eyes? As Yu Manlu stood still, the two black-robed men returned behind him, and the Yu family experts slowly gathered around from the roof. Naturally, the shadows were still completely motionless. The winds began to blow, and everyone's robes began to flutter in the winds. At the same time, the atmosphere in the place grew extremely heavy and stifling. "You still aren't willing to come out? As a man, why are you acting in such a cowardly manner?" Yu Manlu's voice sounded in a calm manner. "Our Yu family and your above heavens had never interfered with each other's affairs, but your esteemed sect had actually bullied your way right up to our doorstep. You caused both of our families to meet each other with weapons, and it is truly a pity." Yu Manlu lamented, and a tinge of pity could be heard in his voice. The leaves fluttered lightly in the wind as though they were also lamenting with Yu Manlu. Behind Yu Manlu, the two black-robed experts stared at each other in confusion. Didn't our family head just say that Ling Tian was the one hiding in secret? Why did he proclaim that he was from above heavens now? Does he intend to pull the wool over the eyes of the Yu family members to hide the matter of their third young noble colluding with above heavens? However, this didn't seem necessary with the status of their family head. While they weren't clear about why Yu Manlu would do that, Ling Tian was extremely clear about the reason in his heart. Right when he had used his divine shocking dragon formula to send out the gold and silver needles, the unease in his heart grew greater and greater, and he hurriedly left his original spot. If he had left his spot just a bit later, he would have definitely been injured in the joint attack of the three experts. Thinking about the close shave, Ling Tian couldn't help but be filled with a cold sweat. Seeing Yu Manlu's reaction and hearing what Yu Manlu had said, Ling Tian could be certain that Yu Manlu knew that he was the one hiding in the dark. However, Yu Manlu had still proclaimed him to be a member of Above Heavens, and Ling Tian couldn't help but be filled with disdain. An old fox indeed, a wily old fox. Because Ling Tian was still his in-law in name and the husband-to-be of Yu Bingyan, even if Yu Manlu wanted to tear Ling Tian into pieces, he must not allow the world to know that he had such vicious thoughts towards his in-law. Thus, he had no choice but to proclaim that Ling Tian was a member of Above Heavens. Even if he found out that this person was Ling Tian in the future, he could just give an excuse that he killed the wrong person. It wouldn't matter if the people in the world doubted him, the important thing was that he didn't knowingly order Ling Tian's death. Ling Tian finally knew why his plan of instigating Yu Liufeng's little scheme would cause so many experts of the Yu family to be mobilized. It turns out that Yu Manlu's true target was himself. The person who Yu Manlu truly wanted to plot against was himself. However, Ling Tian was puzzled about how Yu Manlu knew that this matter was related to him. "You can no longer escape," Yu Manlu said slowly. "You actually dare to interfere in the internal affairs of my Yu family and sow discord between both my sons. You deserve death. However, giving face to Above Heavens, I will promise you a complete corpse if you reveal yourself right now." For Yu Manlu to repeatedly mention Above Heavens, it was number 1 to give Ling Tian a title of belonging to Above Heavens and number 2 for his subordinates by the side to hear. Ling Tian was certain that Yu Manlu was definitely not mentioning Above Heavens for himself to hear. First putting on a chastity ring before going out to become a prostitute. Old man, you truly have your means. Or perhaps everything has been going too well for him and he had begun to underestimate this old man. Was there any difference between having a complete corpse or having a mutilated corpse? Wouldn't the outcome still be death? Without surprise, the eyes of the many Yu family experts immediately shone with enmity and the gazes of the many hiding in the shadows turned unfriendly. Yu Manlu sneered in his heart. Just like how he didn't dare to reveal Ling Tian's true identity, he was also certain that it was impossible for Ling Tian to reveal his identity. Search. Yu Manlu gave an order and more than 10 people charged forward like hungry wolves. Reporting to family head, there isn't anyone here. Reporting to family head, there isn't anyone here. Reporting. Hearing the reports of his subordinates, Yu Manlu's countenance turned darker and darker. He never imagined that the other party would still be able to remain hidden despite such a thorough search. This was something incredulous and something that even the pavilion head of the first pavilion would be incapable of doing. Up until now, Yu Manlu could clearly feel that the other party had not left yet. At the same time, the other party also didn't have the chance to leave. However, just where was he hiding? The place was only so big, and how was it possible for him to hide from the eyes of everyone present? Such a concealment technique was definitely worthy of being called the number 1 in the world. Was Ling Tian truly this capable? I am truly in admiration. Sir's concealment techniques are truly unparalleled. Even the number 1 assassin of the first pavilion would probably have to admit that he is inferior in this regard. Yu Manlu said with sincerity and a trace of respect. This was something that everyone could very obviously hear. However, Sir made a mistake, a huge mistake. Regardless of how proficient you are in concealment techniques, this mistake of yours will render all of your techniques useless. Yu Manlu continued slowly, you have only made use of the darkness to conceal yourself. While the vegetation here is dense, the daylight would definitely render the cover useless. It is only a couple of hours before daybreak, and I am certain that I will be able to wait for daybreak. However, can Sir afford to wait for daybreak? After that, Yu Manlu roared a command, archers, lock down the high points and the rest of you remain on the spot. From now on, all of you are to remain rooted to the spot and are prohibited from making the slightest sound until daybreak. Anyone who moves will be killed without mercy. After Yu Manlu gave his orders, all of the Yu family experts acknowledged the order and froze there on the spot. Their family head's order was something which they would never dare to defy. However, there were already a few of them silently grumbling in their hearts. The first one was definitely Ling Tian. Yu Manlu was completely right, and he was indeed making use of the darkness to conceal himself. The moment the sun came out, it would be impossible for him to maintain such a perfect concealment, and the Yu family experts would definitely be able to find his hiding spot. At that time, it would be impossible for him to escape. Thus, Ling Tian had to find a way to escape before the sun came out. As for the second person, it was the head deacon, Yu Zhaoran. Yu Liufeng was still awaiting news of his mission tonight. The both of them had agreed to split up into two groups tonight. Yu Zhaoran would gather his men to surround Yu Liushui's courtyard, and after he succeeded, Yu Liufeng would take action to apprehend Yu Liushui. At that time, they would be brought in front of Yu Manlu, and as long as their testimonies matched, Yu Liushui wouldn't have a chance of escaping. Yu Manlu only had 3 sons, and his eldest son, Yu Liuyan, was originally the most outstanding one. Everyone in the Yu family had already recognized Yu Liuyan as the successor to the Yu family, but he had died pitifully in the hands of the first pavilion. Currently, there were only 2 sons left, and if Yu Liufeng could make use of this opportunity to get rid of his competition, he would be the only person left in the race. Regardless of whether it is the territories or riches of their Yu family, only Yu Liufeng would have the rights to inherit them. As long as he was able to find concrete evidence on this mission of his, Yu Liufeng was confident of kicking Yu Liushui out of the race. This was something that Yu Liufeng and Yu Zhaoran were certain about. However, their current mission wasn't very successful. While they were able to successfully capture this courtyard, they weren't able to catch a single person alive. While these people were obviously in Yu Liushui's courtyard, there wasn't a single witness, and no one would be able to ascertain why they were there. While Yu Liushui would undoubtedly be the greatest suspect, he only needed to deny everything and no one would be able to do anything to him. They would require a flawless plan to ensure that Yu Liushui would never be able to make a comeback. However, Yu Zhaoran was unable to send any news over to Yu Liufeng, and if he were to grow impatient and take action directly, things definitely wouldn't turn out well. After all, fighting his own sibling was a huge crime. At that time, if both of his sons made such grave mistakes, the mistakes would definitely cancel each other out. After all, no matter how ruthless Yu Manlu was, he couldn't possibly kill both of his remaining sons. As time passed by, Yu Zhaoran stood there silently, and his old face was already covered with a cold sweat. If the family head were to know that he was involved in this matter, what would the family head think? The wind gradually died down and the cool of the night slowly went away. What came next was the fresh air of the dawn, and the night sky began to light up gradually. Chapter 476, Escaping Misfortune. Yu Manlu remained still with his eyes shut, but his divine sense remained on high alert at every moment. His cultivation was fully activated and ready to take action at any moment. At the same time, he couldn't help but have praise in his heart. Ling Tian was actually able to maintain his composure up until now, and there wasn't a single fluctuation in his aura. Such concealment techniques and such accomplishment in his temperament were something extremely rare. If one wanted to achieve great things, staying calm was extremely important, and victory would only be achieved when one stayed calm. This was something that Yu Manlu had always believed in. In the younger generation, Yu Manlu had never witnessed someone who was this capable in controlling himself before. However, he also knew that daybreak was the final chance for Ling Tian to escape. The moment the sun was up in the sky, it would be impossible for Ling Tian to escape the encirclement of his many experts unless he had martial arts like justice. However, if Ling Tian had such martial arts, he would have long escaped regardless of daylight or night time. Who would dare to block him? Who would be capable of blocking him? Thinking about his own two sons, Yu Manlu couldn't help but burn in anger. As compared to Ling Tian, his two sons were completely useless. He couldn't help but lament in his heart, why can't such an outstanding individual be my son? What right does an idiot like Ling Zhou have to give birth to such an outstanding son? Ling Tian, who was supposed to be extremely anxious, remained calm and steady. He knew that growing flustered would only worsen his situation. He was waiting. Ling Tian was waiting for a chance and a time. This time was something that Yu Manlu would never know regardless of how wise and capable he was. That was the darkness before daybreak. The final few minutes before daybreak was the darkest point in the night. While it was only an extremely short period of time, all of the darkness in the night would be gathered to unleash their final burst. While it was only a short few minutes and the sun would be out after those few minutes, these few minutes were more than sufficient for Ling Tian. It was enough for him to escape his current predicament. In fact, Ling Tian only needed a short few seconds. Thus, Ling Tian was fully confident in his ability to escape. In the distance, a bright firework suddenly exploded, and it was the emergency signal of the Yu family. Everyone immediately noticed this situation, and while they were under their family head's orders to remain still, they couldn't help but look over with puzzlement. All of them had the same question in their heart. Why was their family head so certain that the other party was still around? Didn't they just search the place thoroughly? Could it be that they were all useless? If they were to wait for daybreak and realize that they had waited the whole night for nothing, wouldn't their Yu family become a huge laughingstock? However, how would any of them dare to voice their opinions in the face of Yu Manlu's prestige? The majority of them did indeed feel this way. Now that they witnessed the emergency signal of their Yu family, all of the pavilion heads were extremely eager to make a move as the same thought surfaced in their head. Wouldn't it be great if they could make use of this opportunity to leave? If things were just like how they had guessed and they end up waiting for nothing, their family head would lose face for sure, and all of them would end up in a difficult situation. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. Furthermore, Yu Zhaoran was already filled with anxiety in his heart and was eager to find out what had happened afar. Could it be that second young noble made a move towards third young noble? My little ancestor, please don't make a rash move, or you will be killing me. Before anyone could open their mouths to seek an instruction, they heard Yu Manlu's calm voice, "None of you are allowed to say a thing or make a move. Anyone who moves will be killed without mercy. There will be no exceptions." As he said that, he looked towards the direction of the emergency signal and his eyes narrowed again. Could anything be more important than killing Ling Tian? Everything was insignificant before the possibility of killing Ling Tian. If Yu Manlu knew what was happening in the distance, even if he felt that killing Ling Tian was of extreme importance, he would have probably sent some experts over as well. However, he was not a deity and he didn't know what had happened. After he realized what had happened, this decision of his made him regret for a very long time. He didn't manage to pick up the watermelon and ended up losing the seeds. Furthermore, it was a huge seed. This emergency signal was the signal sent by a Yu family agent because he had discovered Shui Qianhuan's hiding spot. Shui Qianhuan finally managed to make use of Ling Tian. While the both of them were unaware of this matter, Shui Qianhuan was undoubtedly only able to escape because of Ling Tian. The sky suddenly turned dark and the stars in the night sky seemed to have been covered at this moment. The moment which Ling Tian had been bitterly waiting for, the darkest moment before daybreak, was finally here. The time was right. This sudden moment of darkness caused Yu Manlu's eyes, which were already accustomed to the darkness, to feel slight discomfort. He couldn't help but blink his eyes and was completely lost about what was going on. Right at this moment, something happened. A dark figure sprinted towards the wall like a gust of wind and speed of lightning. Before everyone could even react, the figure had already pounced up the wall. Hong, the pavilion head of the River Mountain Pavilion, who was the nearest, pounced forward, and with the momentum of his pouncing action, he circulated his inner chi and sent out a powerful palm strike. This palm strike of his had the slight intention of perishing together with his enemy. After witnessing his partner of decades pass away previously, the pavilion head of the River Mountain Pavilion wanted to take revenge for his partner at all costs. The moment he came into contact with the enemy, he realized that he was tricked. The only thing he struck was a soft piece of black robe. However, the pavilion head had already unleashed his full force palm strike and could no longer withdraw it. Thus, he had no choice but to tear apart the black robe and smash his palm strike onto the ground. The ground was already in complete chaos at this moment. As everyone's attention was focused on the flying black robes, Ling Tian's figure darted around like a demon and he sent out 3 palm strikes. 3 black-robed Yu family experts were then sent flying into the sky. Before they could even let out a shriek, they were shot dead like a porcupine by the archers on standby. When Ling Tian had just made his move, Yu Manlu's eyes shone with a violent glow, and with a single leap, he appeared behind Ling Tian and smashed his palms down. Ling Tian turned his body around nimbly, and the exquisite movement technique of his avoided Yu Manlu's attack at the final moment. At the same time, he sent all the black-robed experts in front of him up to the skies. In the sky, one black-robed figure after another had become a human porcupine and landed down on the ground like dead pigs. In the surroundings, the archers' faces were cold as they mechanically nocked a new arrow and continued firing downwards to take the lives of their brothers. They would rather kill 1,000 wrongly than let their enemy off, regardless of whether it was their enemy or ally. Another few figures swiftly appeared in front of Ling Tian. They had long noticed Yu Manlu chasing after Ling Tian, but the swift movement techniques of the 2 individuals rendered them incapable of spotting the Yu Manlu and Ling Tian's exact location. Ling Tian then let out a chuckle and said, "It has been a tough night, guys." He then waved his sleeves and spun around oddly on the spot. Following which, the sounds of metal slicing through the air could be heard and thousands of silver lights shot out from Ling Tian's body. All of the hidden weapons that Ling Tian had accumulated on his body was sent out together. From afar, Ling Tian's figure was like a bright sun which flashed for an instant. This time, this flash was fatal. Everyone was immediately startled as they brandished their weapons in an attempt to protect themselves. A wave of mournful wails could be heard all over the place. How could Ling Tian's trump card be so easily blocked? After all, they were not justice. How could there be a second justice in the world? Hong. Ling Tian turned around and with something in his palm, he suddenly matched a palm strike with Yu Manlu. With a loud bang, a black mist spread out the surroundings with an odd smell. Despicable! Yu Manlu cursed. Afraid that there may be poison in the mist, he quickly held his breath and retreated back. Through that single palm strike, he could feel his body actually shaking slightly from the powerful inner chi of his opponent. To think that his opponent actually had such profound cultivation. Even if his opponent was slightly weaker than him, it wasn't by too much. Ling Tian also retreated 2 steps, and after sending out a couple of palm strikes, balls of mist could be seen spreading from all directions. The next moment, the whole courtyard was filled with a thick mist, rendering them incapable of seeing beyond 30 centimeters. "Hold your breath. There may be poison in the mist," the head deacon hurriedly shouted. With a few pounding sounds, a few miserable groans could be heard from the wall, and the sound of a few heavy objects landing on the ground could be heard. With a loud roar, Ling Tian immediately escaped. The cool morning breeze blew away the mist, and the sky was bright. Everyone looked at each other with complete disbelief. Who would have imagined that despite the dense encirclement of countless experts, their enemy was still able to escape and played them all for a fool? Just a moment ago, all of them were still full of confidence and felt that no one apart from justice would be able to escape this encirclement of theirs. However, the cruel reality had destroyed all of their confidence, as this person was obviously not justice. Seeing the many corpses like porcupines on the ground, everyone couldn't help but feel bitterness in their heart. Their enemy's martial arts, composure, resilience, and perfect planning were at a mystical level. To think that there would be someone like this in the world apart from justice. Where is the family head? Yu Zhaoran calmed himself down and asked after looking around. With his reminder, everyone realized that the family head and his two guards had actually disappeared. Chapter 477, Giving Chase. Ling Tian shot into the air and escaped like a shooting star. In just a blink of an eye, he had already traversed hundreds of feet, and as he sprinted wildly, Ling Tian could even hear the sound of his body slicing across the air. The morning breeze, which should have blown onto his face gently, had actually turned into sharp blades pressing onto his face as he sprinted wildly. Ling Tian did not turn back. He did not dare to turn back. The instant he charged out of the mist, Ling Tian could feel a figure giving chase to him. This person was undoubtedly Yu Manlu. Apart from Yu Manlu, not a single person in the Yu family would possess such mysterious cultivation. Not to mention the Yu family, apart from justice, Ling Tian had never met such a powerful opponent. Even Yi Qingchen, who he had met back then, did not have such strength. The single palm strike he exchanged with Yu Manlu already allowed Ling Tian to fully understand Yu Manlu's strength. The energy of that palm strike was potent and unblockable. At the same time, it was like the waves of an ocean, forever crashing onto the shore. The instant darkness covered the earth, the family head of the 1,000-year-old family, Yu Manlu, revealed his true strength that he had always concealed. He faced Ling Tian's confident palm strike and dispersed the force of Ling Tian's palm strike before infiltrating Ling Tian's meridians with his remaining inner qi, causing Ling Tian's blood to boil. Ling Tian then could not help but feel a stuffy feeling in his chest and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Ling Tian immediately understood that his previous estimation of Yu Manlu's strength based on Yu Mantian's strength was a huge underestimation of Yu Manlu's true strength. Even if he had started training from his mother's womb and trained the mystical divine shocking dragon formula, his less than 20 years of cultivation could not be compared to the decades worth of Yu Manlu's cultivation. He did indeed live up to the name of being the family head of the #1 martial family in the continent. The strength that he displayed was only slightly weaker than Justice's. How did a family head like him, who enjoyed riches all of his life, cultivate to such a level? Furthermore, a chilly and evil qi was hidden within Yu Manlu's pure inner qi and also caused Ling Tian huge trouble. Without this chilly and evil qi, Ling Tian would take a step back at the very most, but with it, everything was completely different. It was because Ling Tian was unable to instantly get rid of this chilly inner qi with his own divine shocking dragon formula. Ever since he arrived in this world, this was a first for Ling Tian. Even when facing Justice's tyrannical and pure inner qi, his divine shocking dragon formula would be able to instantly rid his body of Justice's inner qi. While he would still be injured, it wouldn't cause him a great deal of harm. However, this wave of inner qi had stayed in Ling Tian's body for a long while and had even roamed around his meridians. This made Ling Tian extremely depressed in his heart. He had seen the inner qi of many Yu family experts before, from Yu Bingyan, from Yu Mantian, and even from both Zhu Ling and Zhu F. The divine bright jade formula of the Yu family should have been righteous and gentle, but definitely not chilly and evil as what he had experienced from Yu Manlu. As the family head of the Yu family, why would Yu Manlu possess such an evil and sinister inner qi? Not only was Yu Manlu's inner qi extremely odd and vicious, it wasn't an upright and frank method. If Yu Manlu was to use it when engaging in a frontal confrontation with an opponent, he would be able to catch his enemy off guard for sure. However, if it was used in a war, there wouldn't be much of a use. This was something that Ling Tian knew in his heart. If given enough time, Ling Tian was also confident that he would be able to neutralize it. However, it was a pity that time was what Ling Tian lacked the most. At this moment, Yuman Lu had already chased over like a shadow and was so close behind Ling Tian that Ling Tian did not even have the chance to unleash his hidden weapons. While it was because of Yuman Lu's sinister inner chi that caused Ling Tian's inner chi to be unable to flow smoothly and slowed Ling Tian down, it was also sufficient to show that Yuman Lu's movement technique was extremely close to Justice's. Both of them sprinted through the morning breeze like a shooting star, and regardless of how Ling Tian circulated his inner chi, he wasn't able to open up the gap between them. Ling Tian's divine shocking dragon formula circulated quickly, and Ling Tian resolutely fought the sinister inner chi in his body, slowly getting rid of it. As long as this sinister inner chi remained in his body, Ling Tian would never dare to fully unleash his movement techniques. If that was the case, this sinister chi might enter his meridians, and that would spell trouble for him. At that time, it would take him more than 10 times the effort to expel it from his body. Thus, the distance between them remained unchanged. Yuman Lu was also filled with doubt in his heart. He was extremely clear about the destructive force of that chilly inner chi. All of these years, there were many experts of the pugilistic world who had perished under his hands because of this infallible inner chi of his. He was certain that even Justice wouldn't be able to escape from this inner chi of his. Thus, this had always been Yuman Lu's proudest trump card. However, he could not help but be doubtful at this moment. His inner chi had obviously entered Ling Tian's body, but Ling Tian was still able to jump around so actively and run around so quickly. Could it be that Ling Tian wasn't afraid of losing his mobility the moment his internal injuries act up? To Yuman Lu, this was something that he could not understand. He had already unleashed his movement techniques completely, but regardless of how he sped up, Ling Tian was able to keep 70 feet away from him. Even after sprinting for over 10 miles, the distance between the both of them had not widened for the slightest bit. This was truly bizarre. If Ling Tian wasn't injured, wouldn't that mean that Ling Tian would be able to throw him off easily? The thick city walls were already close, and a thick forest was in sight. This was also the reason why Ling Tian dashed forward at full speed without turning. As the guards on the city walls witnessed the two speeding figures, they could not help but flustered, and a guard shouted out, "Who goes there? Stop there!" Carrying with him a powerful gust of wind, Ling Tian darted up the city walls, and without a single trace of hesitation he sent the city guard flying with a kick. Following that, he flew down from the 70 feet high city walls and shot out 50 feet away, arrived beside the soldier who he sent flying. He then tapped on the body of the soldier and further propelled himself. Yuman Lu, who was behind him, also did a set of similar actions. He shot up the city walls shortly after Ling Tian, and with 2 kicks, 2 spears on the city wall went sent propelling towards Ling Tian's back. With another kick, he then sent a city guard flying, and with a wave of his sleeves, his body shot out like a cannon and followed after Ling Tian with the exact same technique. With a single leap, Ling Tian had already traversed almost 200 feet from the city walls, and the force from his jump was exhausted. Right when he was about to land, a sharp shriek could be heard from behind him, and the 2 spears which Yuman Lu had sent flying were right on his tail. What an accurate strike! What fabulous eyesight! If Ling Tian wasn't the person on the receiving end of these 2 spears, any others would have definitely perished. Ling Tian took in a deep breath and descended at full force. At the same time, his body straightened out horizontally in midair as though he was lying down on an invisible bed. With swooshing sounds, the 2 spears shot past his back. Ling Tian continued his descent and was a mere 30 feet away from the ground. He then grabbed onto one of the spears and stabbed in towards the ground, borrowing the force of his descent to speed up the spear like a landing meteorite. With a loud bang, the spear penetrated into the ground, with more than half of the spear body being embedded within the earth. However, The force from Ling Tian's descent had not been completely nullified. Ling Tian took in a deep breath and made a split-second decision. He imbued his inner chi into the spear and propelled his body forward while holding onto the spear firmly. The flexible body of the spear then curved into a beautiful arc, and Ling Tian unleashed the inner chi which he had imbued into the spear. Through his powerful inner chi, a loud bang sounded and a large amount of soil was forcefully dislodged and sent flying towards the incoming Yu Man Lu. Ling Tian finally nullified the force of his descent, and he rolled a few times on the ground before bursting forward at full speed again. From the start of being pursued by Yu Man Lu until now, Ling Tian had yet to even take a glance back. Right when Yu Man Lu was about to land on the ground, he saw a thick layer of soil flying towards him. His calm face revealed a trace of anger, and with a fierce palm strike, his figure sliced through the soil wall like a hot knife cutting through butter. However, he never expected to be greeted by the spear that he had just sent towards Ling Tian. The spear was imbued with Ling Tian's powerful inner chi and was definitely not to be underestimated. However, this was definitely not an intentional move by Ling Tian, but was completely because of Yu Man Lu's good luck. As long as Yu Man Lu was a slight bit later, the force of the spear would be spent and it wouldn't be a threat. However, Yu Man Lu was far too anxious and had met face to face with the spear. However, if Yu Man Lu didn't give chase at full speed, Ling Tian would be able to shake him off with just a small delay. A loud bang sounded. Yu Man Lu's palm smashed onto the spear's body, and with a caca sound, the body of the spear was destroyed. However, Yu Man Lu's figure was also slowed down by this powerful clash. A tinge of red could be seen in Yu Man Lu's eyes as he witnessed Ling Tian enter the forest. The killing intent in his eyes grew stronger and stronger. I have to kill Ling Tian today. Despite his young age, he has such achievements in his martial arts. He would definitely be a future calamity, and I must get rid of him. If I miss this opportunity today, I will probably not have a chance to get rid of him again. Yu Man Lu then barged into the forest, smashing away all the branches and leaves that got in his way like a giant crashing through a dense forest. The moment he entered the forest, Yu Man Lu immediately fell into a daze. The situation before his very eyes was completely out of his expectations. Chapter 478, Gentleman's Conversation. The scene in front of Yu Man Lu was completely out of his expectations. Just a moment ago, it was as though he was on a battlefield, and a moment later, it was as though he was basking in the gentle moonlight by the riverside. This drastic change in atmosphere caused even a steady person like Yu Man Lu to fall into a daze. About 40 to 50 feet in front of him, a young teen was standing under a tree and looking at him with an amiable smile. He had a graceful and steady disposition, and every move of his seemed to carry with him an unrestrained and carefree aura. As the wind blew past, the leaves gradually floated down from the tree, and looking from afar, this elegant young teen looked like a young noble who was out on vacation. Ling Tian didn't continue to escape but actually waited for Yu Man Lu calmly. As Yu Man Lu walked into the forest, Ling Tian greeted with a smile, "You have arrived." The tone of Ling Tian's voice was as though he was greeting a friend who was joining him for tea. There was even a tinge of joy within it, as though a martial arts expert who stood at the peak of the world finally found a peer to exchange pointers with him. This was the loneliness of standing at the peak of the continent, and also the mutual appreciation between individuals who stood at the peak. This was also the greatest respect one had for a worthy opponent. At this moment, Ling Tian only had a single phrase in his heart. This phrase was not flattery or nonsense, but Ling Tian's true feelings. Even if I were to search the whole world, the only heroes in the world would be you and I. Ling Tian finally understood Cao Cao's loneliness when he had said these words. 1. Just a moment ago, he was still chasing after Ling Tian and trying to exhaust all of his means to kill Ling Tian. But at this moment, Ling Tian's attitude had changed completely, and this drastic change of attitude had shocked even the unshakable Yu Man Lu. Just what was this young brat Ling Tian up to again? Could it be that he didn't know that facing the family head of the Yu family up front in such a manner was an extremely dangerous move that could cost him his life in an instant? Ling Tian's "you have arrived" made Yu Manlu not know whether to laugh or cry, and also made him feel that something was definitely wrong. Just what was Ling Tian relying on to treat him in such a manner? Furthermore, Yu Manlu was also very curious why Ling Tian was so certain that he wouldn't deal with him. After all, he was just chasing after Ling Tian in an attempt to take his life just a moment ago. Up until now, Yu Manlu couldn't even think of a reason why he shouldn't kill Ling Tian. With Yu Manlu's acute senses, he could naturally deduce Ling Tian's state of mind based on Ling Tian's words and expression. An odd feeling surfaced in Yu Manlu's heart and he revealed a smile. Following that, he swept off the dust on his robes as though he was a guest entering his host's residence. He then walked forward and said calmly, "Ling Tian, you are truly bold." Ling Tian asked with his head slanted, "Oh?" Yu Manlu replied with an amiable smile, "From our previous exchange, even if you were at your peak, you would still be slightly weaker than me. Now that you have been hit by my special inner chi, you are definitely not a match for me right now. As long as I continue giving chase to you, you will not have the chance to treat your inner injuries and force out the poison. As time goes on, you will definitely die under my hands." Ling Tian's eyes gleamed and he replied with a warm smile, "Perhaps." Yu Manlu placed his hands behind his back and looked at Ling Tian with an undisguised look of appreciation. "Currently, my subordinates should have already informed the surrounding Yu family experts, and regardless of which direction you escape towards, there will definitely be someone watching you. You will definitely suffer different levels of obstructions, and while they wouldn't be able to block you, I would be following closely behind you. Thus, you are dead no matter what. After all, the surrounding 1,000 miles is the territory of my Yu family. However, you actually chose to stop at this moment." Yu Manlu smiled and said with a crisp tone, "Not only did you stop, you even displayed such a casual attitude, obviously with the intention to have a conversation with me. If I were to reject having a conversation with you right now, I would be lacking in demeanor." Ling Tian broke out with a wide smile. "You are indeed the head of a family and a character with the hope of ruling the world. Those little thoughts of mine can't be hidden from you at all." Yu Manlu shook his head as he laughed. "Don't try and flatter me. Even though your words sound extremely nice, I know that you are an eloquent individual who can turn black into white and round into square. However, your eloquence is completely useless to me. Speak your true intentions. What do you want to say? What bargaining chips do you have up your sleeves?" "Right, let me make something clear first. Regardless of what you say, you will never change my mind. You will definitely be killed by me today, and this is something that will never change." Yu Manlu let out a leisurely smile. "You are truly exceptional, and I will never believe any of your promises. I will only be truly safe if an enemy like you dies. I believe that you also understand this point. In this world, there aren't many people capable of making me wary of and completely out of my control." Ling Tian replied with a smile, "Family head, Yu's words are true, and I thank family head for your praise." A glimmer shone in Yu Manlu's eyes and he asked calmly, "Then why did you stop? I don't believe that you would do something useless." Ling Tian let out a smile and with a wave of his palms in a slicing motion horizontally, 2 trees by the side were then sliced cleanly from 3 feet up without a single sound. With a single hand, Ling Tian controlled the body of the 2 trees using his inner chi and placed the 2 trees onto the ground lightly. He then dusted his hands and said with a carefree smile, "An esteemed guest has come from afar, please take a seat." He actually ignored Yu Manlu's question and raised his arm to welcome his guest. Yu Manlu glared at Ling Tian for a long while with a sharp gaze before breaking out into a smile suddenly. Interesting indeed. To think that the bloodthirsty death god Ling Tian would be such an interesting person. It is a pity that there isn't any wine present at the moment, or I would definitely offer a toast to you." He then walked forward slowly and sat down on the master's seat. Ling Tian was the host of this banquet, with Yu Man Lu being the guest. However, Yu Man Lu had actually taken the master's seat, obviously with the intention to overwhelm the host. Ling Tian chuckled and said, "Family head Yu is being too impatient. The battle between us is no longer a matter of mere territorial borders, but will affect the situation of the whole continent. Before the situation in the world is settled, the position of guest and host is of little importance." Yu Man Lu's eyes flickered for a moment before saying, "We are in the territory of the Yu family and I am the master here. Regardless of what happens in the future, that would be my status and this will be my seat. Over the many years, there have been many who wanted to take this seat of mine, but they have all died without exception." Yu Man Lu used his chin to point at Ling Tian. "There has been no exception, you will not be one, and there wouldn't be any in the future as well." Ling Tian let out a silent chuckle and raised his head. Family head's words make sense. I am indeed a foreigner of this land, and I should be the guest instead. After that, he took a few steps back and sat down on the other tree stump. While they had not exchanged a single blow, the confrontation between them had already started. In this first round of confrontation, Yu Man Lu had gained the upper hand, and Ling Tian, who was seated in the guest's position, was naturally on the losing end. The sound of the leaves rustling in the wind could be heard, and two experts shot over at high speed. Ling Tian looked at Yu Man Lu with a calm smile, and apart from a slight trace of ridicule and mockery, Yu Man Lu couldn't read the deep thoughts in Ling Tian's eyes. Yu Man Lu frowned and shouted, "The two of you are to wait outside. No one will be allowed to enter." The sprinting figures stopped outside the forest and a respectful voice sounded, "Yes." They then didn't enter. Ling Tian gave a calm smile and said with a trace of mockery and praise, "With a single command from family head, your subordinates don't dare to make a single move. You are indeed a wise ruler, and this point alone is to be praised." Yu Man Lu watched Ling Tian calmly with gentleness, like a caring elder looking at his descendant. He then chuckled, "I think I have an idea what you want to talk to me about already." Ling Tian said, "Oh? Even with family head's brilliance, you may not be able to guess my thoughts, right?" Yu Man Lu smiled, "Perhaps." All of a sudden, the two of them burst out into laughter together, and there was no need for words. Yu Man Lu said with a bright laugh, "This atmosphere is indeed a mystical feeling. I think that there haven't been many people since the ancient times who would have the chance to face their enemy and have such a peaceful conversation." Ling Tian chuckled and said, "Ling Tian does not feel that there is anything mystical about this. After all, I am still your in-law in name. While we may not have much time to converse as such in the future, we are relatives after all." After that, he looked at Yu Man Lu with a profound smile, "As long as you are willing to go to sky bearing." Yu Man Lu's brows furrowed and sneered, "It is a pity that not a single father-in-law would be able to feel assured with such a son-in-law. Such a son-in-law like you will only swallow the bones of your father-in-law without even spitting out the bones or skin. This old man has no choice but to guard against you." Ling Tian laughed to the point he couldn't breathe before replying, "Family head must be joking. But is this really the case?" Yu Man Lu remained motionless as though he didn't find what Ling Tian was laughing at funny. "That's right." Unknowingly, the second confrontation ended, and while it seemed to have ended in a tie, Ling Tian had the slight upper hand. However, he had to make use of Yu Bingyan's name before gaining this slight upper hand. Chapter 479, The Top Brass Discusses. "You're not interesting at all," Ling Tian grumbled. "Not interesting is far better than not being alive, won't you say so?" After contemplating for a while, as though in disapproval of Ling Tian's words, Yu Man Lu spoke. Ling Tian was startled before letting out a smile. "I'll take back my previous words then. You are really interesting." One moment saying that he was boring, the other interesting, Yu Manlu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He could only laughingly scold out, "FK. So am I interesting or not? What are you playing at?" Ling Tian instead opened his eyes wide, his eyeballs almost falling off as though he had seen a real-life dinosaur in a city as he stuttered, You actually said a mouthful of crass words. I never would have thought that the catchphrase of Third Master Yu would come out from your very own mouth." Yu Manlu, however, sighed in contentment, his entire body relaxing as he replied, "Indeed, it's been a long time since I last felt this way. Do you know, when you burst out into laughter just now, I was certain of killing you in more than 10 ways, and when you glared at me, I at least had 7 to 8 chances. I can see that you really do not have your guard up against me at all, that even facing an enemy that wishes to kill you before anything else, you still are not wary. Why is this so? Give me a reason, I'm very interested in this." Ling Tian smirked inwardly to himself. Did you think that I was completely off guard? You might as well ask me to strip naked and seal off all my acupoints before throwing myself into a nest of vipers. This young master's preparations aren't something you can easily see, with your current knowledge of only this era. However, what he said was completely different. It's only because I believe that the Yu family head is not such a despicable and shameless person. A family with a millennia worth of background has to live up to a certain expectation. Does family head agree with this? Despite hearing the thinly veiled insults towards him, not only did Yu Manlu not get incensed but rather heartily laughed out as he replied, "Well spoken. No matter if it's your true thoughts or not, I still feel very pleased hearing that. As such, in your heart, what kind of person do you think I am?" Yu Manlu suddenly asked in a serious tone. The eyes which he used to gaze at Ling Tian seemed to say that he viewed this very seriously. However, Ling Tian only laughed out in a crafty manner before replying in turn, "In your heart, what kind of person am I, Ling Tian?" To this teasing reply, Yu Manlu actually closed his eyes, contemplating for a long time. Only then did he open his mouth to say, "If I did not exist in this world, then many years later, you would probably be the only person to rule these lands." This praise was not small, and coming from the Yu family head's mouth, the weight of such words was again to Mount itself. Family head is over-promoting me. Ling Tian only let out an indifferent smile. However, as chance has it, this is exactly the same thought that I have of family head. His eyes narrowed. If I was not alive, then many years later, Yu family head would definitely be the one to rule all under the heavens. That's why I must kill you today. Be it for myself, or for the future of the Yu family. Yu Manlu laughed out in an abnormal way, even though the content of his words was frighteningly scary. At the same time, the gleam in his eyes suddenly sharpened. In the process of conversing, he had found out that the advantage had long been grasped by Ling Tian, letting himself shiver all over. At this time, he could not hold in the urge of killing intent towards Ling Tian. "Perhaps, in this entire world, you're the only person who can understand me." Ling Tian sighed as he exclaimed, "But if we look at it again, maybe the only one who can understand you in this world is me. This is because our end goals are the same, to the point that even the methods we use are also similar. In my opinion, if there is no accident, the global war in the future will definitely be started by our very hands. What do you think?" A tiny spark of pride flickered past Yu Manlu's eyes, even as he nodded. Based on the current circumstances, it would seem the case. Unfortunately, you no longer possess such a chance, because there's a high chance I'll kill you the next moment, and to a dead person, a chance to start a war does not matter. Yu Manlu felt stifled. Even with his current strength far outstripping Ling Tian, he had still fallen to a disadvantage in front of him. Thus, he did not wish to follow along Ling Tian's thread. However, every time Ling Tian spoke, he would immediately scratch on the sensitive spot on Yu Manlu's heart, causing him to react adversely. It could also be his own sixth sense telling him that, If he did not retaliate, he would fall into an even greater disadvantage. But if he were to reply, then that would mean falling into Ling Tian's traps. This was really the case of being trapped between a rock and a hard place. Or else, with his grand identity as a family head, how would he be reduced to threatening someone with his life and death? Ling Tian, however, shook his head with certainty. You definitely won't, at least not in the current window. With this situation now, how could you even bear to kill me? And why so? Give me another reason. Yuman Lu left out in ridicule. Till now, I still cannot come out with a reason to not do so, and my greatest wish is still to eliminate you. As for you, you had the chance to escape at the start. But now, you do not even possess the slightest bit of a chance. Ling Tian ignored him, instead raising his head up to look at the small patch of blue sky currently revealed through the cracks of the tree's canopy on top of them. He leisurely said, I've always thought what a fascinating scene it would be if I was able to have a leisurely talk with my greatest opponent. Whoever won or lost in the end, this conversation will be recorded down in the annals of history, passed down to the ages. Thinking of it, one's heart would also get infatuated, as this is proof of one's mark on this world. As such, I've always thought about what sort of scenario would happen if the two of us ever sat down together. No matter how you think, it will only end with a forfeiture of your life. Yuman Lu callously spat, throwing aside his original demeanor, with his killing intent now billowing out all over the place. The third battle ended as Ling Tian's overwhelming victory. He had completely taken control of the flow of the conversation, and while Yuman Lu had tried to break out of the scenario present, using his trump card of killing Ling Tian, the latter had not even given him the chance to follow up, pulling further and further away from him. Ling Tian only chuckled, before his expression suddenly grew grave as he seriously said, Dare I ask, family head, if I did not exist, then what's the best estimate of the time required for you to unite all under heavens? Yuman Lu received a shock at his words. From Ling Tian's tone, he realized that this was the main course of today's conversation. As he pondered over this question, just as he was about to confidently reply to him, he realized that whatever answer he had, they all were unsuitable after some thought. 5 years? That was an impossibility. 3 years later would be the generational battle between the Yuan Shui families, and after the battle, whoever won or lost, there would definitely be injuries to both families. If they wanted to recover in 2 years to conquer the world, that was the dream of a fool. Then a decade? With the Zhou and Dongfeng families still present, and with the handicap posed by the Beyond Heavens and Above Heavens sect, that was unlikely too. Taking a step back, 2 decades? While he had the confidence to complete this matter by then, he would have lost all his imposing manner. What a pathetic answer he had. After 2 decades, he would be an ancestor with 1 step into the coffin, and by then what was the point of being a hegemon? Ling Tian had obviously calculated a rough estimate of the time Yuman Lu needed and knew where his hesitation lay, thus he started to laugh out loud. His face reddening in embarrassment, Yuman Lu could only snap angrily, Then this old man will ask you, Ling Tian, how many years would you need to conquer the world without me being present? The laugh coming from Ling Tian was cut short immediately, he too being stumped for an answer. The Zhou, Yu, and Shui families. Each one was a huge power unable to be ignored, and to speak of the time needed to conquer them would be a big question mark. Ling Tian might be arrogant, but he had not lost his head yet. To speak of settling everything within a decade, let's not talk about Yuman Lu not believing it, even Ling Tian himself did not believe he could actually pull it off. It was Yuman Lu's turn to cackle in schadenfreude, as he mocked in revenge, seems like you can't even give an answer to the question you posed. That's right. For this question, both of us cannot answer with any guarantee. The world as a chessboard, with its infinite changes, nobody can predict the next move with certainty. Ling Tian honestly admitted, however, I would like to pose a question to family head then. If you were to kill me right now, then in my most conservative estimate, you would still need at least another 15 years of warring from north to south, before you can achieve your plan of conquering all under heavens. If we were to throw in the variables in heavenly wind and heavenly sun continent, then maybe 30 years might not even be enough. Might I ask then, how old is family head currently? Yu Manlu's hand, while stroking his goatee in satisfaction, suddenly froze as his expression grew dark. This was his sore spot, and he started to exude the aura of a dangerous beast. According to my sources, family head should be 49 years old this year. Ling Tian only continued with a cold smile. Even if we compromise and take the rough estimate of 20 years, you would have conquered all under heavens at the ripe old age of 70. By then, can you still taste the pleasure of ruling all under heavens? Yu Manlu raised his head, a sharp yet wounded look in his eyes. Ling Tian, however, ignored it, callously continuing, even if you can finish your career in 20 years, you would be 70 years by then. How many years can you sit on this treasured seat? 1 year? 2? Maybe 3? Ha ha ha. Your martial skills might be profound, but you are no god, and you are definitely no immortal. There will be a day when you meet your maker, and when that happens, what are you going to do? Ling Tian barked out in laughter, before harshly spitting out, becoming a monarch at 70 years of age. 70. Even if you become a monarch, what use is there? Even if you rule all under heavens, how long more time would you have to fulfill your grand ambitions? Don't tell me that your aim is to get the treasured seat of the heavens to die in? To ensure that your rotten meat weighing over 50 kilograms has a beautiful place to die in?
Thank you for your continued following. Please support us by subscribe to encourage our continued creation. And press the bell to notify new chapter from us. Thank you.